Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to Beyond BMR. Of course, I am your host, Bigfoot Michigan Rob, also known as BMR. Joining me, as always, is Studio B from the Blondes and the Booze Paranormal Podcast, the lovely Krista Tweedy. If this is your first time here, please subscribe to Bigfoot Michigan Rob on YouTube, the Blondes and the Booze Paranormal Podcast on YouTube, Texas Front Porch on YouTube, Paranormal Paul on YouTube, Our Paranormal World with Monica Rollins. Donnie Show says stuff. That's right. Great affiliates of ours. Come on in, give them a like, subscribe, and check them all out if you would. I have a great show, a fan favorite, a great friend of mine, Varla Ventura. It's about her fourth time on the show. You guys love her. I love her. We're doing some Halloween. We're doing some monsters. We're doing some mayhem, as only Varla Ventura can provide. She's an author, many books out there. In fact, I have Varla's link in this show. Go click on her link, buy her books, check out her website, show her some love. Thank you for that. The super chat's open. It's a great way to help support what we all do around here. Thank you in advance for that. You can become a BMR pirate. Arr! Join today, mateys. Join the many. Join the few. I guess that depends on your point of view. What you get? Well, you get a picture of me sporting a bandana next to your name in the chat room. Go check that out. Don't forget, we're on all social media platforms. We're on Spreaker, on podcast form, iHeartRadio, wherever podcasts are found, you can certainly find us. So thanks for that. Also, on a quick note, I've got to thank everybody for buying my books. My first book is about a year and 3 or 4 months old. Bigfoot to Michigan Represents True Cryptid Encounters, Book 1. I released Book 2 in August. The same title, BMR True Cryptid, Book 2. Thanks for all that bought it. Please leave a review because just like YouTube, analytics, you leave a review, it helps promote book sales. Type Bigfoot Michigan Rob on your Amazon browser, leave a review, and of course, subscribe to all of our channels across the board. I do appreciate you guys. I love you guys. Give us a like, share us out. Thumbs up. Hey, if you don't like the show, give us a thumbs down. I don't care. It's all about the analytics. So thanks for everybody for coming on in chat. And also thank you to everybody that watches the show that does not participate in chat. Because I have to remind myself, because I always look at the chat room and see all the great people in chat. But you people that are watching that aren't in the chat room, you're just as valuable. You're just as important because you are really the ones that do help, drive the show for us. So I do appreciate all of that. Thank you ever so much for that. So with that being said, I'm going to bring up my lovely co-host, Krista.
Hey,
Krista. Boy, long day. That was a rapid day. We had a rapid meeting.
we did.
I had to run off and take care of some stuff 5 minutes prior to the show.
Mm-hmm.
We got the lovely Varla came on, 5 minutes to spare, and we all were, blasting out a quick chat, with amongst each other. It's always busy, isn't it, Krista? Especially on show days. I don't get it. My biggest days are on show days where I'm busy all the time.
Mine too. Like you said, we had our meeting, and then I wasn't hungry when I first got home. And so I just stuffed my face with bacon in the last 5 minutes that you've been talking.
Bacon, that's my favorite,
Mine too. Now I'm cleaning bacon out of my teeth. So
I love a nice pig.
You right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, it's been a long day. My work today. So let me tell you, we sent a bunch of people home today because out of 8 bathrooms in my work, they all quit working except for one. I don't know. There's some kind of backup. So they said, we have like 50 something people that work there. So we got down to a skeleton crew. There was only 8 of us. So they ended up ordering sugar fire barbecue for all of us that stayed today.
Okay. Yeah.
Like, holy cow, man, that was good. So like I've got so much protein in me because that's all I ate was protein there. And then I had bacon for dinner. So I'm full of protein tonight, guys. I might OD on protein.
Krista, OD's not protein.
Yeah.
It'll be a first.
So,
You know,
yeah.
I gotta tell you something. I do suffer. I wouldn't say suffer is a bad word, but I do. I eat too much bacon. I'm not
Mhm.
gonna lie to you. And for those
Yeah.
in the chat room, leave a comment after the show or put it up in chat. I eat bacon 3 times a week.
I eat
That
it more than that. So,
guy, he says, "Well, I eat a pound."
mhm,
You know, when I go to the store and I buy that pound of whatever it is,
mhm.
I cook up the whole damn thing.
Oh, heck yeah.
And I eat
Yeah.
that, and
We'll slice
whatever's
it.
left over, I put on a nice hamburger, a barbecue up a nice bacon
Yep.
burger. I
Yep.
don't really I don't eat healthy. I don't. I really don't.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
But you need protein. So, like, you've got like you could have bacon, just mix other things with it. Like, like Paul just said, he had bacon and eggs this morning. Throw an egg with it. And,
well, no, although I do 2 over easy eggs, I make them nice and runny, which,
Mhm.
causes other problems. So
Yeah, you're not supposed to have them
the
too hard.
runny egg, I run to the bathroom after the runny egg. It's the only way I
Yeah,
like my yolk, hot and runny.
yeah,
And I dip the
yeah.
toast in it. It's just fantastic. It's
No,
fantastic.
it is. You're making me really hungry. I thought these pieces of bacon I had would fill me up for dinner, and it did until you're talking more. Now they're talking
Well,
about BLTs in chat. I like,
well,
hello.
I made a nice Mexican dish that, this 90 minutes better blow by as it always will, because I'm ready to eat after this show.
Yeah.
Enough of that. I got a
Okay,
great
move
friend of
on.
mine. I got a great friend, Varla, sitting out back, so kind to join me for about her 4th time. She's a fan favorite, certainly a favorite of mine. I'm bringing up the lovely Varla V.
Hello, hello.
And you're
Oh,
on
she's
mute.
on mute.
There we go.
Hey, Varla.
Hi.
Hello, hello.
How's it going?
I think you heard most of how it's going
Yep.
in the
Yep.
introduction.
I thought that was funny. I thought, Krista, where you were going with that story is barbecue and one bathroom between all those people. And
Yeah.
yeah, it's like, oh, okay.
Yeah, no, we sent everybody home today, and they're like, well, like we're all sitting here, we all got to eat still. So, and I was teasing them because I had work to do. So the work I had to do, I couldn't do work from home. I needed office work done, and so I'm like, hey, I am from the country. I go out in the middle of the woods. If I got to go to the bathroom, I'll go out back and squat if I have to. So I'm good,
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I was about to say I was at Chris's house last summer. We went down to a conference,
mhm.
and I tell you what, if you really have the urge to go, you can. Yeah, she's got a lot of property, and no one can see you doing your business,
Yeah.
except for the horses. She's
Yeah.
got a lot of beautiful horses that graze her property.
That's nice.
Yeah. So,
So,
yeah.
Varla, you've been on several times, and thank you. This is kind of like the Halloween show. Halloween is about a couple days away, and
Yeah, I was just very poorly carving a pumpkin earlier this evening. So
well,
I love pumpkins. I love all things Halloween, of course. But I realized years ago that I'm not good with carving mediums. I'm a writer. I can do okay with a little bit of painting here and there. And I'm really good at cutting out construction squares. But other than that, like, I'm just not that crafty. So I just have resigned myself, years ago to the classic. I'm going classic. Triangle eyes, triangle nose, big grin. If I have a sharp enough knife, I can put a tooth or two. Just a classic jack-o'-lantern. And I don't try and do anything fancy. And my son's really good carver. He's doing some sort of like Beetlejuicy thing tonight. And I'm like, well, I think my eyes are even, but hey, close enough. Just stabbing the knife in there and.
Yeah, I think you mentioned that, and not to get into your business for everybody. Varla's a trooper. She has something, she has a little surgery and on her eye, and I'm glad she joined me. We're putting this off to let her recover, and I'm glad to see that you've recovered for the most part. So
yeah, thank you so
shout
much.
out.
And thanks for the accommodation. I couldn't see very well, so
No.
I'm pretty much. I mean, I'm I'm as restored as I'm ever going to be. I'm as normal as I'll ever be.
Yeah.
You know, we have to have realistic expectations of
We have to have
normalcy.
realistic. We have to be realistic, and none of us are normal, to be honest with you. So,
Yeah. Why would
Yeah.
we be?
yeah,
Right.
that's just so boring.
It
So
is.
boring, Varla,
It is. It
And,
is.
and I got to say that for people that are new coming on in here, you are an accomplished author, and the genre of folklore, paranormal, ghosts, witches. We talked about mermaids. So for people that maybe do not know much about you, why don't you give us a little background, your books, all of Varla's books you can find in this show. On the link, you'll pull up all of your books. I got that in there for you, Varla. So I do
Thank you.
highly recommend that for anybody that's into some creepy weirdness.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, and just a side note, I think I've told you this, but probably off air, I just love the covers of your books. I love that they're so like
Thank you.
vintagey and pulpy looking, and they're just you did a really nice job with those covers. So
Well, I have to give the credit to Jason McLean, great friend of mine, and
great job,
he's
Jason.
the artist. He did a great job.
Yeah.
Of course, I had my input, but I said, "Hey, this is what I want, dude. Can you make it happen?" Sure enough, he made it happen. So shout out to Jason McLean.
It just reminds me of like an old book you'd grab off the old paperback you'd find, in the small little like pulpy paperback. It's really well done. I love them.
Well, thank you. I do appreciate it. And it's funny you mentioned that because last Sunday I went to my brother's house. I usually go to my brother's house during football season to watch the Detroit Lions play. That's like our ritual every Sunday ever since we've been moved out of the houses, right? Yeah. And my sister, I love my sister. I call her sister. She's my sister-in-law. I've known her for 30 plus years. I've met her in high school. And both of my books are placed appropriately on her mantle. She goes, Rob, I got to put these out for Halloween because they're just so creepy.
Yeah,
so
the covers, they're great. I'm sure they look great facing out like that. Yeah.
And then the fire blazes, lights them up. It really is cool looking.
Oh, you should take a picture.
Yeah,
you should get a picture.
Well, I tell you what, I'm going there Sunday. I'll send you a picture on Instagram or whatever.
Yeah, tell her to keep it up till Sunday at least.
she'll keep it up. Yeah, she'll keep it up. Well, she's one of these. She's fast. When Halloween's done, within 2 days, everything comes down. Then she'll put up. We all skip Thanksgiving. They go right into Christmas.
Right. So have her take a picture before she takes it down. At least,
will.
With the firelight and stuff. I think that'd be great. You can put it on your Instagram.
I'll have her do it on Sunday. How's that?
There you go.
Okay.
It won't be down Sunday.
Okay.
So yeah, Varla.
So I for those who don't know, I am. I mean, you kind of said I'm an author. I've written multiple books. I think I am on my 7th book now. Forthcoming book in April of 2025 called Enchanted Plants, a treasury of botanical folklore and magic. I'm really excited about that one. I always get excited about a new book, but I'm very excited about that one. It is available for pre-order, but it won't be released until I think the 2nd week of April. Right now they're saying April 7th, and sometimes that date can move up. Originally they had April 1st, and I was like, could you not have that be the publication date? Can we just change that a little bit? So I'm very excited about that book. That is an exploration of it's looking at fairy tales and folklore, but specifically looking at plants that are central to certain stories. Mm-hmm. So rather than just being like this collection, which I love all plant books basically, but and there are so many great books of plant lore out there. So this approach is just, slightly different. Instead of it being like an A to Z of all the plants, it's I really tried hard to find plants that were very central, like stories that were really built around the plants. And then I also include magic and other lore and medicinal properties of those plants. And then the book itself is arranged by the type of garden you might come upon in a fairy tale. So you have the Queen's Garden, the Witch's Garden, the Deep Dark Forest. So it's a little bit arranged the way my fairies, pukas, and changelings book is, in that it kind of takes you on this little bit of a journey. But this one's a bit more straightforward with where you're going. You're going, from one garden to another. So that was a delight. It's actually a book that I've been working on for about 15 years, maybe a little longer, but mostly just in the incubation phase and in the observational phase. And then about 5 years ago, I started to really create a manuscript from it. And so then now it got a publisher. So now it's coming out, and I'm delighted about that. I have books about another topic that I'm very interested in is the paranormal, but also sort of the history of the paranormal, the history of the spiritualist movement, and the role of women as mediums, and in the kind of spiritualist movement. And then I just love all things haunted and spooky and strange and magical creatures. I love mermaids. I love banshees, vampires, werewolves. You name it. I keep company with them all. So that's kind of my deal. Just love those things and write about them. Love those things and write about them.
Sounds like you fit right in with the rest.
Yeah, that's exactly why I wanted you close to Halloween, because there's so many things we could discuss. And here's a funny thing. When you think plants, what the first thing that pops in my head, and it's not like you would think. It's like, oh, really, plants? I mean, I grow a garden, but plants are vampiric. Certain plants, are they not, Varla?
So actually, it's funny. Last night I did this talk all about for a library in Boston, and it was all about sort of grotesque plants and plants that have some sort of like various some sort of sinister side. And there is one plant. It actually is the largest flower in the world, and there's two plants that are known as the corpse plant or the corpse flower. One is the Titan arum, which is this massive kind of inflorescence that gets to be like 15 feet tall and 3 to 4 feet wide. And it smells like rotting flesh, and people line up around the block to get a chance to like peek at a Titan arum when it blooms. And then the other is also called a corpse flower or the corpse lily or the corpse plant. And that's a Rafflesia arnoldii, and that is actually the biggest flower in the world. It gets to be 3 to 4 feet wide. And so the difference being the Titan arum is technically something called an inflorescence, which is a collection of tiny stinky flowers, whereas the corpse flower, the Rafflesia, is one giant flower. Well, this thing smells like rotting death. It attracts. They do this because their pollinators are like flies and carrion beetles and anything that's attracted to a cadaver. But this plant is actually, this flower doesn't have roots. It doesn't have leaves. It's actually parasitic, and it grows in this specific kind of vine that's a relative of the grapevine, and it's native to like Sumatra and Borneo. And it pretty much just like sucks the life out of this vine and then bursts forth into this like massive, almost like, it's a very surreal looking flower. It's almost like a giant rubbery, dark lotus or something like that. And then you have something called a vampire lily that has a very like ruffled edge and looks like something a vampire would wear. And that also smells like rotting meat. You got the dead horse arum, aptly named because it smells like a dead horse. And these are things that like they're all attracted by these plants. Oh, and here's a real trippy thing. The dead horse arum, and I'm not sure that the vampire lily can do this, but the dead horse arum and the Titan arum, they're both thermogenic. So they actually radiate heat. And the Titan arum radiates so much heat, it actually is close to like the human body temperature when it's in full bloom. The dead horse arum radiates so much heat that it actually it created this like symbiotic relationship with cold-blooded, these lizards. And they eat the seeds, and the seeds are more likely to germinate. while this like disgusting thing is blooming and putting off heat, and it basically it's replicates like, you know, like a dead seagull or something that would be on the island and would be like rotting in the sun. That's what this plant is doing, and it's attracting all of those flies and things. So yeah, there's all kinds of like vampiric, and you know, you've got the carnivorous plants that actually sort of entice and trap insects, and then they're designed so that the insect falls in and drowns and it can't get back out because there's these tiny little hairs. So it's like your worst nightmare. Like you fall in this pit, you can't get out because every time you grab onto something, you just make it worse, and it just slips down until you. Yeah, it's brutal. Yeah.
You know, I had no idea about plants being like that. No idea.
Oh gosh, it's incredible. It's absolutely incredible.
Is it something we should be scared of? How big do they get? You know, are they just your average 3-foot plant, or they get like 5 foot, 6 foot tall?
So most carnivorous plants kind of stay on the smaller side. You can see cobra lilies will get their flowers will get 3 to 4 feet tall, or their kind of like their pitchers will get 3 to 4 feet tall. There's ones that are native to Michigan. Actually, I've seen them in the wild, the cobra lilies.
Ooh,
you know, in the bog. And then you also have the teeny tiny sundew that's also native to Michigan. The tiny little sundew, and it's just this delicate looking thing that is kind of reddish, but it's covered in tiny little hairs, and it's real sticky, and it attracts all kinds of gnats and those horrible biting flies you get along the lake shore.
Well, certainly.
Yeah.
Well,
but like the corpse flower is huge, but that's not carnivorous. The one is parasitic, and the other one is not carnivorous at all, but everybody kind of thinks it is because it's so gross and it smells like something died inside of it. So you would just kind of assume that it was carnivorous, but it's not. It won't eat you like the Little Shop of Horrors.
Well, I'm glad that you've presented this information, because as a lot of people know me in the chat room, or maybe they'll listen, I do loving doing gardening, and I do have flower beds in my house. Yes, I'm into all that stuff, everybody. Yeah. Yeah, I'm not turning in the man card. Okay. I dig it. It's cool. But now with these plants, I'm going to have to get with you, you know, sometime, maybe in the spring, maybe. And we'll have to get together on what I should buy to plant.
Yeah.
Because you mentioned Michigan for a couple of these plants. I'm going to have to make an investment and just check that out. That's very, I'm fascinated by that. I really am.
Yeah. Most of those sort of, you know, like the dead horse arum, for example, that's native to the Mediterranean. So a lot of those plants are native to like the Mediterranean or tropical environment, but you can still have them outside in the summer. Usually you just do them in like a pot, and then they go dormant, but you just kind of keep them inside just so the ground doesn't freeze around them. You just put them in like a little greenhouse, even in a garage, as long as it's partly sheltered and insulated a little, you can keep them inside. You just don't want the pot to freeze all the way through. I know this. I learned this the hard way because I relocated from a Mediterranean climate to the Midwest. So but there are plants that are native throughout the Midwest, the United States, and some of those carnivorous plants are. And they go through a period of dormancy, which means that they look like they're dead, but they come back.
Okay.
But yeah, there's so many. There's like, you have to tell me what your growing zone is, and then I can help you.
I think I'm in zone 5, because you know what I want to
you're
get.
Tropical compared to me. I'm like a 3.
Really?
I'm like Alaska.
Yeah. Well, somebody told me I was zone 5. I have to check for myself. Michigan.
Yeah,
I'm in southern Michigan.
Yeah, you're in like the lower part of Michigan.
I'm by the Lake Erie, Detroit
River. Yeah, you're
area.
probably zone 5. That's a great growing zone. There's tons of cool stuff you can grow.
Because I need some other plants that come back every year, the perennial.
And if those things should happen to scare your neighbors, all the better.
Yes. I need some plants to scare away the ground chucks or the wood chucks, whatever you call them. They've been coming out of the creek, and they're a nuisance. I'm getting all sorts of little mammals running around here, rodents, if you will. But
Yeah.
But anyway, that's you and I can talk about that.
All I can tell you is get a cat. That's
well, really quickly,
that's
little
the only
Patty.
plants I can think
Yeah,
of.
get a cat. Yeah. I don't know. Well, little Patty in the chat asked really quick, can you grow these in a pot? Or are they more for the ground?
Yes, you can grow. In fact, even the Titan arum is generally grown in a very, very large pot. Often because when it goes to bloom, it'll be transported from like the back conservatory to the front conservatory, or different botanical gardens or conservatories will loan them to one another. So like UC Davis in California has a couple of Titan arums, and they'll send them down to the Conservatory of Flowers in San Francisco so the public can come and revel in the smell. And I'll tell you, that smell is, I mean, it's those names are accurate. It's got that kind of high scent, that cloying scent. That is, there's something dead under my porch scent in the summertime. That's the smell. It's not pleasant at all, but it really only lasts a couple of days. And yeah, it's just fascinating.
Wow.
It is, and I'm gonna get with you and talk with you later on about all this. It is fascinating.
We'll do a spring show, and we can do all the weird plants.
Yeah, Varla comes on for all the seasons. Yes, Varla comes on for Halloween, Christmas, and the other 2 seasons. She's on like 4 times, 5 times.
Halloween, Christmas, and then spring.
And then she's
maybe
on like
summer if we're in the mood.
Yeah, summer if she's in the mood, got nothing going on.
I like that you didn't say fall though. You were like Halloween, Christmas.
Those are the
Halloween season.
Oh, right, Halloween.
Spring.
It's spring.
Halloween's the most important season. We all know that.
We all know it's my perfect holiday month, October.
Yeah.
I bet Christmas. I do like Christmas, but that's why I'm glad you're here, because it is, of course, the Halloween season. And, I was thinking we would just do a show based on all these typical Halloween things in the spirit of Halloween. And I got to tell you, you do a great job with all your folklore, with the pukas, the mermaids, all fascinating. Find Varla's books right here on this channel. Go check out her link. But I want to do something traditional, because I will tell you, the creature, the person that I fell in love with as a kid growing up, there's 2 of them. The first one, Varla, and we all know the folklore has some element of truth behind it. I believe that. You believe that. As far as what I remember. What about the vampire? Now, I'm not talking about the energy vampire. I go watch some people's shows, and they want to run into the energy vampire. Yeah. I got a friend, Brian. He's an energy vampire. Every time he calls me,
Brian, the energy vampire.
Every time he calls me, Krista knows this. I've known Krista 3 years now. The guy calls me. He's a truck driver on the road. These mother effers are ticking me off on the road.
He's a Debbie Downer.
Yeah. And I'm having a great day, Varla. I'm having a great day. I'm barbecuing hot dogs, hamburgers, having a adult beverage. Hey, blah, 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 blah. I said, dude, click. Goodbye. Don't call me when you're driving home. You bring me down. The guy does it all the time. He's my best friend since the age of 13. I don't know why, Varla. I don't know why, because
hopefully
he literally
he's not listening to this.
I hope he is. I hope he is. We've had this discussion many times, Varla. Many times. It doesn't matter. Goes over his head.
Tell him to
Brian, you're a downer. You're an energy vampire. I don't want to talk about energy vampires, though. They're out there. And I get it.
Yes.
Let's talk about the vampire. I mean, vampire. Give me your thoughts, the folklore, your opinion. Do they even exist today outside of the energy vampire?
Yeah, I think they do. And I think like what we think of today as sort of like our quintessential vampire, the sort of Dracula, that is an amalgamation of many different types of beliefs in vampires. So if you want to get into like the origins, you've got, of course, we know that Bram Stoker was influenced by some of the stories of Vlad the Impaler, who was a Romanian warrior chief, basically, who just was known for being particularly vicious, head on the pikes and all of that stuff. So some of that, like the Vlad is the perfect name.
Mm-hmm.
Also, a very common story that Stoker would have been aware of is the story of Madame Bathory. Now, she was the woman who was alleged to have bathed in the blood of her of young women, and in order to be beautiful. So legend has it that she was very, very beautiful, and that she was not particularly nice to her servants. Right. However, there's basically no actual evidence that she bathed in blood. And it turns out that the person who accused her of bathing in blood and being a vampire was the male heir. It was like a second cousin. And she was a madam. She had this whole castle and all of these lands. And she basically lost it all to him. Like, she was kind of imprisoned in her own house. So I thought that was a very interesting twist. I had heard of her story for many years. And then one time I was listening to, I think it was like that the Lore podcast. I don't know if you ever listened to that. Guy's last name is Menke, but I can't remember his first name. And he mentioned this male cousin. And I thought, oh, okay, that's interesting. So you have, so kind of you combine some of those things, and you think about them, and you sort of have the Dracula that you have today, but there's many, many other attributes. There's tons of evidence that people believed in vampires. People still do believe in vampires, but there's tons of evidence, especially in like medieval Italy. Lots of examples of people being buried with, and you'll find, every once in a while a news story surfaces like new grave excavated, and someone will have a brick in their mouth, or they'll be buried standing upright, which I believe has its origins in the Irish vampire that I think it's called the Aberracht. And he was this like horrible king who basically wouldn't die, and they buried him standing up to try and like kill him, and he kept coming back and killing people. Then you have, so don't get mad, but I'm going to bring this back to plants for a minute.
Yeah, go right ahead. I'm into
we got to
plants.
talk about this. Okay, so in medieval Italy, there an introduced plant was corn. Corn is indigenous to the Americas. It was brought back by some of the first colonizers, brought back corn and introduced it to Europe. It grows beautifully in the sort of like milder climates, especially in Italy. Now, keep in mind also at the time, there's huge disparity between the haves and the have-nots. So finding a source of food that would be like rice or oats or wheat that would be incredibly nourishing, multi-dimensional. You can make bread out of it. You can make pancakes out of it. This is like really valuable. And so that you would make this like hominy type stew, a polenta, right? That would fill you up, and then you could work for the day. However, what the colonizers failed to listen to is that the indigenous people, when they prepared corn, they added some variation of like a lime ash. They basically like burnt wood, usually a particular kind of wood, depending on the region. And this would actually break down the kind of niacin. It would allow the niacin in the corn to be released through the cooking process. So then you would have this really like fully complex and like more complete food. It would give you niacin, it would give you all these other nutrients, plus it was filling. So the colonizers don't make note of this, or maybe they dismiss it, or maybe they just turn their noses up at it because you're putting burnt wood in the food. We're not sure exactly why they paid no attention to this, but it became widely cultivated with no ash in the process. And so no niacin was coming out. So people were eating all of this food, but they were nutrient deprived. So essentially, there's a disease in Italian. It's the Italian name for it, or the name for it, is pellagra. And pellagra, which sounds like, a dangerous word, is niacin deficiency. And some of the hallmarks of niacin deficiency are extreme sensitivity to sunlight, a deep, insatiable craving, especially for something iron rich, hallucinations, madness, foaming at the mouth, and also becoming extremely pale because you're deficient in an important vitamin.
Right.
So this fueled the idea of vampires throughout medieval Italy. And we already know what happens in so basically, if you weren't accused of being a witch, you were probably accused of being a vampire or a werewolf, maybe, or some other kind of quote unquote bad creature. So you also have this big fear. There's this huge fear factor that this is going to happen to you and that this person is going to infect you. Add to that some of the traditional misunderstood practices, especially in Romania, in Eastern Europe, and Transylvania, that you actually would have sort of like a lord of the manor. And the Romani, the gypsy, would actually kind of camp out on the land. And they would often send a companion to the lord of the manor, who would usually be a younger woman, to keep him company. And that was sort of the agreed upon relationship, right? That you can stay on the land. This beautiful woman comes to stay with me. And that's also kind of where the idea of the vampire came in. The idea that he was actually feeding upon this young woman, the life force of her or her blood. Some swear that there was a blood exchange. For myself, I think, it sounds like same story, different century, basically, right? Oh, a creepy old man and a young woman. Heard that tale time and time again, right? So it's always kind of interesting to kind of you think of all of these different origins and other beliefs as well. The idea that of shape shifting, which that goes into play with werewolves, but also with vampires. So the bats, bats are widespread throughout, especially the northern hemisphere. And they're creatures of the night. They're very important to the ecosystem. But the idea that you'd think you'd see something out of the corner of your eye, and in fact, it would be a bat, that this person could shapeshift into another creature. It wasn't necessarily always a bat. I think that sort of came about more with the more Hollywood version of vampires. But there is a vampire bat, which does actually it. I think it just sucks all the juice or something. Yeah.
I think it's correct me if I'm wrong. It doesn't necessarily drink blood.
It drinks
fruits.
Juice from fruits. But it'll drain them completely. So you add that sort of lore to that idea. And then of course, then you have people's accounts of experiencing this extreme illness after a mysterious bite. You can also get rabies from bats. We know they're carriers. So I'm not trying to dismiss the idea that vampires exist, but I think what we have today is this cross-cultural amalgamation of so many different variations on the vampire. So, it's interesting. There's all kinds of things out there that will, there's even some elements of a poltergeist that have a sort of a vampiric quality, or people speak of having paranormal encounters and feeling very exhausted after. This can be, so in my mind, what it is it's all of those things that I described are all sort of the ways that we've come to understand what a vampire is in our sort of collective. When you say vampire, you think of Bela Lugosi type thing,
right?
But I also think there's some sort of entity at the heart of it that dashes around. And the other another great vampire thing that led to the idea that do you remember Nosferatu? And if you
I was
don't,
going to bring that up.
Yeah.
I was going to bring it up and ask you, but you read my mind, Varla.
Yeah. Oh no. So Nosferatu, he rises up very slowly. That's the big dramatic scene. It was such a huge deal when that movie came out. And he's got his arms across his arms across his chest, and he just sort of slowly rises up.
Right.
Well, back in the day, especially when people were not necessarily buried underground. So take, for example, a city like Edinburgh, where you've got like kind of crowded, right? Like the city's kind of layered. There's a big rock that the castle's built upon. And so and it's, a fairly cool climate. So you would have people who were laid out in crypts a little more often than maybe you would have in
Sure.
Greece or something like that. So people would be laid out in crypts, or they'd be in their coffins, but they're always in a coffin, right? But either it would be underground. Well, you had grave robbers. You had grave robbers because, hate to break it to you, but what our modern medicine is based upon is grave robbery.
Absolutely.
There was a time when we were not allowed to do autopsies or learn about, modern medicine or anatomy. And so grave robbers were being slipped a few bob to go down and, dig up the grave and bring him to the medical schools. This was very, this is very common. This is Frankenstein kind of based on that. So you have people who would be, and of course, people were also breaking into graves just to get their gorgeous, ruby rings or whatever,
right?
Whatever they could get. Tough times, it's like there's a lot to survive back then. Mm-hmm. But anyway, rigor mortis sets in. People were frequently laid to rest with their hands across their chest. That's a way. And then rigor mortis would set in, and you would kind of be like laid out in your coffin like that. It's very typical. You can see old, post-mortem images from the Victorian era. You'll see people are always laid out that way. Well, you pop open a crypt, and if rigor mortis has set in, but the person's been laid to rest even before it's fully set, they're going to spring up out of that coffin with their hands across their chest. Now, if you're a poor grave robber, you're not paid enough to see something spring forth from a grave, and they don't know what rigor mortis is. They just see something jumping out. And they're out of there. And then the next thing you know, there's a vampire in the midst, and that's how they justify not having gotten the job done as well.
There a lot of things you say I do agree with, because I've read a lot of things about vampirism when we're talking about humans as vampires. I think there was a story back in Ireland where a lot of human corpses, they had their mouths were filled with bricks. And they were, they were stakes were driven through their heart, and they had these long teeth that appeared to be fangs, which was basically the gums receding. Yeah. There's a lot of things you can explain it away.
I was saying, this comment here kind of goes to what you were talking about. Says, yes, Varla, I've seen graves that we archaeologists have explored where skeletons are huge, but staked through the heart and pinned down to prevent the body rising.
Yeah. So it at least gives evidence that there was a belief that vampires were a real threat. Right? Like you don't stake someone down if you don't think they're a real threat. Just like you'll find evidence when people were believed to be witches, they might have a certain way that they were buried, or
and even with the witches, Varla, correct me if I'm wrong, if you were suspected of witchcraft, there was a lot of different ways in which they decided to prove you're a witch. One of them was putting your ankles in shackles, which was connected to a cement block, thrown in the moat, and if you drowned, well, you weren't a witch. Which 99.9% of the women thrown in the moat with their ankles shackled died, right?
Well, yeah, you'd just be tied, like your hands and your feet would be bound. So you'd be tossed in, and then you were damned if you do, damned if you don't. Because if you swam, if you managed to get free, you were a witch, and then they would drag you out and they would hang you or burn you. So you kind of had there was, and then there were other torturous things that happened as well. We won't go too gruesome.
Yeah, but they also too, wouldn't bury like in the regular parts of the cemetery. You know,
That's
they're
right.
buried somewhere else, not
That's right.
not with the good folks.
Yes, yes, they were buried often outside the cemetery gates, or in non-hollowed ground. And interestingly, the Church of Scotland, and now there's a petition being signed and passed around to get the Scottish government to do the same. The Church of Scotland has issued a public apology for the thousands of people, primarily women, who were killed, innocent women who were killed in the name of witchcraft during like a 400-year period in Scotland during their witch craze. And there's a petition that's going around to have that, the government actually also issue a public apology on behalf of the government, because the thing is whether you believe in witches or not, it's not a crime. So, I mean, you might not like it. It might be against your belief system, but that doesn't make it a crime. But of course, that's not how things were viewed. It was, a fever that it happened. It happened in Salem. It happens today, really. People become witch hunted very, very quickly. But you were kind of doomed, and it's not I think it's pretty common knowledge that it was frequently older women who were perceived to no longer have value in society, except they usually had land, especially widows. But my favorite witch story is Dame Alice. Do you know this Irish witch, Dame Alice Kettler?
Can we put a pin in that? Can I put a pin in for this one? I got to ask you something though about the vampire thing, and then we can move on. And I want to hear this story as well. Thank you so much. I believe the vampires exist, but I'm going to give you my take, and I want your thoughts. Yeah. I know you dig into the history of all these things. I'm not going to suggest that a vampire is a member of the undead. Now, but I do think, if you look back in times, I think certain people, they've been reanimated. Or here's the thing: we all know about the paranormal, and nefarious spirits. Do you think that it's not possible some of these vampires that maybe existed back in the 1800s, 1900s, or prior were actually demons that took over a dead body, captured their soul, and they roamed the earth, and they went about preying on human beings? Now, I'm not saying bloodsuckers or anything like that, but do you think that it's kind of an evil? Because when I think vampire, I kind of think, demonic forces at play. I'm not going to go as far off the limb and say a reanimated corpse, a vampire bit me, drained my blood, and now I'm a member of the undead. That may be, I'm not going to totally say that didn't happen, but I'm going to say is this: I think that people can be turned into a vampire outside of not a physical being, but a nefarious spirit. What's your thoughts on that?
So I definitely think that there can be an ongoing sort of paranormal preying entity. Just like the banshees have been around for thousands and thousands of years and will exist for thousands more. They're not necessarily evil, but they're not really like that good either, right? They're not bestowing knowledge upon you other than the fact that someone you love is going to die, and they're really kind of like terrifying. So certainly the kind of at its core, that vampire, that energy and life sucking dark entity certainly can be out there, and it can take hold of anyone. I mean, sure, people could become possessed. Another element to it, I think also, and like I know quite a few people who identify as vampires who use the vampire lexicon in much the same way that a Wiccan might use some of the Celtic Wheel of the Year or some of the sort of like modern witch teachings. And they have their own rituals, they have their own mass, black mass. They dress the part, they live in this very ritualistic way. And I know that you say, like, you're not talking about energy vampires, but when you approach vampirism from a magical standpoint and you really use it as a collective group to sort of create a kind of vampire lifestyle and glamour, you really are tapping into the very element of magic that, you know, a coven can tap into. And so on that end, I think that's quite different than something that is evil or dark. So I don't necessarily, I don't know. I have more sympathy for the vampire than maybe your version of it. I think I have a little more sympathy, and I think a demon is a demon. I think that's its own thing. I don't necessarily know if they're the same thing. You know, there's so many different types of creatures and entities out there. And the thing is we're also trying to describe something that is almost indescribable. And what we have today are variations. Just like if I say fairy to you, you might have a picture in your mind of what that's going to be. And then I'm going to tell you a few things, and it might change your viewpoint of what a fairy is. So I feel like vampires kind of belong in that category. I feel like they get a bad rap, you know, in defense of vampires. And the blood thing, like, some people just are really into it. Maybe they're anemic. I don't know.
No, for sure. I just got some text here. I know for sure. No, again, you know, what I love about the show is we don't really know everything. We don't know
That's
anything,
the best
really.
part,
The
right?
more I know, that's why it's such a mystery behind everything.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a big mystery. And I just want to talk the vampire thing. It's Halloween. There's so many different avenues we can go with that, but I kind of don't want to. I kind of want to cut it at that. But and I want to get into that witch story you were talking about. But I have a quick question for you. When we talk about werewolves and shape shifting, I'm gonna pose this question. I want you to think about this. You know how back in folklore, how it was the human being shape shifted into like a werewolf.
Mm-hmm.
We all know the story. We don't have to get into that. Let me run this at you, Varla. What do you think? You ever come across this? Do you think that maybe it's not really the human being shape shifting into a werewolf? But what about it's the werewolf shape shifting into a human?
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's absolutely that. A lot of what we know about werewolves fits more in the idea that it's something wild that just sort of overtakes someone. And this is just along the lines of like scientific evidence of vampires or scientific evidence of werewolves. There's quite a bit of so there's this massive book called the Book of Werewolves. Honestly, it sounds like something that would be in like the Hogwarts library, but it's a real book. It was written in the late 1800s by this guy named Sabine Baring Gould, who was a reverend who traveled around Scandinavia. And this was, you know, I don't know, he was probably like 1888 or something like that. And he traveled around Scandinavia and he recorded all of these beliefs. And he also traveled beyond Scandinavia. He went into Russia. He went up into Finland and Lapland and Norway. And he recorded all of these traditional beliefs about werewolves and ways that people could become a werewolf, antidotes to werewolves. And it's probably like the largest volume of research done, certainly folkloric research done ever. Like no one's done what this guy did all those years ago. People have written about that, but trust me, anyone who's writing about werewolves today has used this book as a resource. And if they haven't, they have, and they don't know it. Yeah. Because this guy's stuff, but anyway, so he has this this is probably why the book's like not that well known. Okay. Because he has this like really strange chapter. So he's a reverend. So he ponders everything. Everything is kind of a greater spiritual question to him. So he records all this stuff and then he ponders. And so one of the things he ponders and then goes on to speculate is that every person who has ever been so angry that they see red has the ability to snap, has the ability to transform and shapeshift in that moment into a ferocious beast. And he basically puts like serial killers at one end and pregnant women at the other. This is why I think the book wasn't that popular. It was like, oh, that's a bit of a stretch. But
Right.
the idea that a human can transform into something. I've been that mad. Not many times in my life have I been that mad, but I have been that mad where I didn't even really know what my body was doing. It was just reacting. So there's the idea. So his argument is then that we all as humans have the propensity to become werewolves. And I would argue that that could flip right over to vampirism, that we all would have that bloodthirstiness that could occur. Now, most of us have it under control, right? Most of us don't go to the extreme, but the fact that it exists in one human means it could exist in almost any human. So there's the capacity to become a werewolf there. Of course, you add to that the idea of shape-shifting deliberately in order to connect with the wild gods, in order to connect with the wild spirits of nature, and invoke protection because of that, which was keenly misunderstood by the men of the cloth and other well-meaning white Victorian dudes who put everything through their own lens, So but I do think it's possible to think of it the other way around, where the werewolves are the wild sort of creatures that are out there, and occasionally they take on a human-like variant in order to sort of like slip among us. If you look at Irish folklore, you will see that description for many different types of like a fairy woman. And we're not talking about something with like gossamer wings that's pollinating your plants. We're talking about a thing that has the ability to like snatch children and drown grown men. They'll be able to pass among the regular folk unseen, except certain people have the second sight and the ability to detect them. So
wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Good times.
Yeah.
I read this amazing story actually about this person who let's see what had happened. The story was that when she was a young woman, she went to this place you weren't supposed to go, and everyone said she went missing. And she basically, like, this was in Ireland, so she went to the fairy kingdom, and she returned. So you don't always return, right? So she returned, and when she returned, she actually gained that ability to be able to recognize a non-human creature in any situation. And there are these descriptions where she'd be at the market and she would look and she would recognize the fairy woman, and the fairy woman would recognize her and try and scurry away because they otherwise might be captured or caught, or they wouldn't be able to do the like whatever sneaky thing they're up to.
Right. There was a comment up here that it spoke, with one end, was a pregnant woman. Bad Monkey says, apparently you can literally get away with murder within 12 months of having a baby due to enormous hormonal surges a woman goes through. Had no idea.
Yeah, put that in your bank just in case. Now, the hormonal shifts, though, that is definitely like a huge part of it. And I think that, like, in his book, he doesn't fully understand that, right? Because like we're only just now, is 2024, only just now are we actually like acknowledging and treating on a widespread basis the hormonal shifts that a woman goes through and that men go through as well. So like acknowledging it and like where it's actually happening in regular conversation and not looked at as something like, oh, you're just going crazy, right? And postpartum is absolute, like postpartum depression is a very, very real a very real thing. There's a whole gamut of things that can be associated with those hormonal shifts. So some of the other attributes of being a werewolf of lycanthropy include excessive hair, which is also something that comes into play with the bearded lady, right? Like there's a hormonal thing happening there. And then keep in mind too that we're talking about, still happens today, of course, but like 200-300 years ago when things were being recorded, people weren't, and hundreds of years before that, of course, but people were kind of passing things on. And first of all, story changes, the telephone, like story changes from person to person, and you put your own spin on it, and you put your own like bias and slant on it. But also anything that wasn't ordinary or healthy was considered supernatural. So this included, children who had certain birth defects were said to be changelings. They were said to be fairies. They were sometimes left out for the fairies and left to die. Horrible things that we would not do today, but we didn't have, people didn't have a, large understanding of medicine and genetics and evolution or anything like that. And so sometimes when you look back at those old volumes of, old folklore, you have to really read between the lines. For example, now you know about pellagra. When you go back and you read about some medieval accounts of vampires, you can keep in mind, they also might have just been like suffering from this niacin deprivation that was leading everyone, and they were hallucinating. And then you kind of come to that other place is like, okay, so if you've had a hallucination, whether or not it's caused by medicine, sleep deprivation, nutrient deprivation, whatever's caused it, you accidentally ingested some sort of strange mushroom or the rye fungus, the ergot fungus, which totally contributed to the witch craze. People eating this bread that was poisoned with this hallucinogenic fungus. And then they were seeing, women ride on brooms across the field, right? It was also happened to be the field where your cow got sick, which also happened to be the field that is next door to your field, and you wouldn't mind having it. Right. So it's like, okay, kind of a ripple effect there. But you can kind of know that, like, between those lines, there's another story that's there that we would look at it very differently today.
This is all fast and great information. I got to ask you, did you want to go back? What was that you mentioned? And I kind of swayed the show
since it's almost Halloween, let's tell the story. That it's not a real long story.
Yes,
but
please.
It's the story of Dame Alice Kettler. She was the first woman officially accused of witchcraft in all of Ireland. And if you ever go to Kilkenny, you will know the story of Dame Alice. There's black cats on everything in that town. It's a beautiful, beautiful city. Absolutely quintessential. It's got all the cobblestone streets and a river snaking through it with a castle. And it's just a gorgeous, gorgeous little town. But you go to Kettler's Inn. Kettler's Inn is the, I don't know if it's the oldest continually operating tavern, but it's from like 1300. It's been this tavern, and it belonged to a woman named Alice Kettler. Now, Alice happened to have gone through, I believe, 3 husbands in her lifetime, and they did all happen to die under mysterious circumstances that probably could have been poisoning, but there's really no evidence to say that they were poisoned. But she went through 3 husbands, and so she had amassed quite a fortune, and she had this inn, and she was running it. And, it was the times. It was it kind of had hopped the pond over onto Ireland, where the witch craze was starting to take hold. And lo and behold, someone accused Alice of being a witch. They said she had killed her 3 husbands. They said they found evidence of these, these recipes and these potions. Now, keep in mind, that stuff was real easy to plant, right? Just like, planting evidence. You just write up a little spell and you point at the lady who has something that you want, and you say that she eats children. And the next thing you know, no one wants to be associated with a someone who eats children. So of course, then she's a witch. And you would see there's these like lists of recipes that have all of these psychotropic plants in them. And then it'll say something like, and rendered fat from a baby. Now, there's no way someone was actually putting rendered fat from a baby into this recipe, but it was added in there so that people would really react. Because if someone just saw all these words in Latin and they don't know what these plants are, they're not going to know. And a lot of people couldn't even read. But if someone says, oh, there's rendered fat of a baby, okay, well, now you're definitely a bad person. So anyway, long story, she's accused of witchcraft. She's the first woman officially accused of witchcraft in Ireland. The night before she's about to be brought to trial and convicted of witchcraft, she disappears. Some say she disappeared. She shapeshifted into a cat and ran away in the night. And that's why you see black cats all over Kilkenny today. Others say that she had friends in high places, i.e. the Medicis down in the south of Italy, who were known alchemists and were also known to shelter those who were accused of witchcraft. So no one really knows for sure. Unfortunately, her maid, Petronella, was basically accused in her stead. And she was actually, I can't remember if she was burned at the stake. I believe she was burned at the stake. So not a great ending there for the...
Not a great ending. And I often find that when we talk about witches, Salem, your last story here, never a good ending. So I got to ask you, I have your take on the vampires. I have your take. I got to ask you your take on these witches, because it seems like so many women needlessly were murdered. Now, so are there women witches that do cast spells? Or is that just trite? Or is
yeah. No. Witches exist. Witchcraft is real. It's not a crime, though. That's the difference.
Well, today's day and age, no.
Wasn't a crime then, and is not a crime today. I stand by that. Witchcraft is not a crime.
I got you.
So, but what you did have is you had wise women, you had healers, you had ways that people could take care of one another without having to pay penance to the church. Many of the traditional sort of like pagan holidays, what we know today as Christmas, is built right on top of solstice, right? We have Easter is right on top of Oster, which is a celebration of spring. So there's many ways in which you can oppress and destroy a belief system. You don't just do it with one, it's not one tweet and it's all over. Right. It's multi-fingered. You convince people that they're going to suffer. You make them suffer. You make their friends and family suffer. That's the basic principle of like how you overcome another society and sort of make them do what you want. So witchcraft is absolutely real. It is a healing art. It is not exclusively for good. There's certainly plenty of things that you can do for retaliation, like any sort of like form of religion or ritual. There's a huge spectrum of people and how they practice. But it's a misnomer to just consider it black magic. Black magic is its own thing. And then there's other kinds of magic. And a lot of people do all the kinds of magic, depending on circumstances and how nice people are to them.
I agree when it comes to witches, quote unquote. I think there's ones that do a great job. They're healers. They're for good. I hate to say even the witch, right? Individuals, right? That can people, women, men, whomever.
Yeah, there's lots of male witches. Lots.
Warlock, right? Would that be
the male witches. Some go by warlock, and there might even be more male witches today than ever.
Let me ask you this then. Again, I really believe in a lot of this stuff, but I'm asking your opinion. Okay. So in the spirit of Halloween, we'll go a little on the dark side. Do you think that Can spells be put on someone that is kind of, I don't want to use the word evil, but hexes you for a decade of infertility or losing your job or just having just a bad negative energy or bad vibe? Is there people that have the ability to cast it on you, and it's up to you to find out how to, or go to somebody else, maybe a shaman, another witch, whatever, to break that? Can a person be cursed, I guess, is the
Yeah, of
in
course. Yes.
simplistic. Okay.
Yes, a person can be cursed. Now, how cursed you would be, it depends on how much, credence you might give that person's abilities. I also think it depends on what state of mind you're in and your level of vulnerability. For example, you would never, well, you might, but I would advise against entering into, like, let's say you're going on a paranormal investigation, or you're even going out to look for Bigfoot. Well, you go out there, like your friend, right? Like super negative, bad mood, hitting trees, trying to, right? Then you're going to bring on some kind of like, negative deal, right? So of course, like, your mindset has a lot to do with that. And so people who believe in and regularly practice witchcraft also do a lot to fortify their own minds, as I do think people who investigate the paranormal or the supernatural do as well. Whatever those rituals are for you, I mean, it could be basically like, hey, I drink a Gatorade before I go out, or whatever it is. It's fortifying you. You're kind of fortifying your body and your mind. And so I think, like, certain people can be more vulnerable to those things. But yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, I won't name names, but I've witnessed a couple curses that have resulted in what someone might otherwise be arrested for.
So
Again,
it can get very serious.
not
Then.
naming
Serious
names,
matters. Not naming names.
Serious matters.
Serious matters.
Most witches don't just curse someone for, taking their parking spot.
What
But
about
you harm someone in my family, then we're going to have another discussion.
What about talking modern day, 2024?
Yeah, I am talking about modern day.
Okay, let's say that, and I'm not this guy, but let's pretend. Let's just pretend that Rob's an a-hole. Rob's an a-hole, and I don't like my neighbor because, I don't know, they don't cut their lawn. Seriously, but I'm being serious here. I'm just trying to make this simplistic for everybody listening. If I go to a witch, can I get a witch and have them cast a spell on my neighbor because I don't like them? And if so, what would the neighbor have to do to break from that spell? And they have no clue that a spell was put on them.
Okay, so no witch will cast a spell on someone because of some trite dispute you have with the neighbor. No witch worth his or her salt would do that.
But what if it was not a witch like we're talking about? What if it's just a bad witch?
Like a person who's just trying to take your money?
Yes, and they'll do anything to make the money. And if it's a successful spell,
it wouldn't be a success. It wouldn't. It couldn't be. It would not. That doesn't. You can't. You couldn't have a successful spell over a trite matter.
Okay. I'm just asking, Varla, as you know.
I'm just asking
you, Varla, because these are questions people have, and yeah, it's just I'm just wondering.
It wouldn't work.
I'm just wondering is all.
It would. I don't think it would work. I think if real spells are cast by real witches, and a real witch would not cast that spell. Now, if you came to a witch and said, okay, this neighbor, they did something to my it's something to my kid.
Different story.
Now you're talking, right?
So so the guy that has long grass sign teed off at, no deal.
The other thing that you need to be very clear about is that you are not an uninvolved party in this situation. So you you can have someone come to your house and do a blessing, of course, like a blessing or banishment or whatever. if you're asking someone to do this, okay, they might give you everything you need, but you're the one that's going to have to execute it. So you cannot just get away like, I didn't do anything. You're involved in this process. You're involved. And so you have to be ready, willing, and able to deal with the karmic repercussions for that.
Okay. Well, thank you, because
So just make sure it's worth it is all you got to do.
Make sure it's worth it. You don't want to get the bad juju, the karma casts on you. In the spirit of Halloween, Varla, you're on, and two of my buddies, they must be sitting down, Chad. They got nothing better to do. So they just decided to pop in and pay us a little visit, if you don't mind. My buddy Tex from Texas Front Porch. I see him.
Oh,
nice. Texas got shingles, everybody. Oh, sorry, Tex. I did not mean to make that public. As long as we can't get it over the airwaves, I'm fine. And another buddy of mine popped in, Mr. Turner, Josh of PRT. I'm gonna Varla, I'm gonna have them join the party for the last time we got here, and I gotta check on my mom real quick too, because she's got something she wants me to do, right, Krista? So I'm gonna bring out my bro Tex and my other bro from PRT, Josh. This is Varla. You guys been watching the show, and oh my god, my computer's going haywire. What did I just do? I did something. I'm getting a bad juju cast on me from some witch out in the chat room.
You crossed the line.
I crossed the lines, Varla.
You've been warned. I can't help you.
Yeah. I got to see what my mom's got going on upstairs. She's been texting me like a banshee. I'll be back in a second.
Take care, Mom.
Hey, Tex, Josh, thanks for coming on. Unexpected Halloween night. Well, the 29th. I'll be back in a second, bros.
Yeah. So, Tex, how are you feeling with the shingles?
I'm lost here. Hang on. Oh, okay, that's Rob. I saw my picture up there, my icon. I'm like, what? I didn't put this up, but I'm way over here. So I will say this: hydrocodone from the doctor is awesome. Okay. I had to go back because he said he said, man, if it gets bad, we got stuff we can give you and everything. And I said, no, I got this, no problem. I got a high pain tolerance, folks. And
well, it's good to see you. It's good to see you here tonight. I didn't think we would, because I know you.
Well, I said, no, I got this. And then I had to. It was unbearable. I couldn't sleep.
Yeah.
And I was supposed to go into work tonight. And I called the doctor and I said, look, I got to do something. I can't handle this. This is just insane.
Yeah. Yep.
And so they hooked me up and I took a couple of them and I crashed for a couple hours.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like night and day. So I'm doing really good. So I know that's a long way around it, but anyway, there it is.
Okay.
Varla, I had a question for you. Because we found something in the field one time that we've always been talked about. We've always talked about finding it. We've never really got a specific, a hard answer for what we found. But we were up in Brown Springs Cemetery one night, and Brandy was with me, and it was a candle, one of those tall candles, we couldn't tell what color it had been. It was clear glass, but there was absolutely nothing left in it. Okay. There was two pictures that were laying beside the candle and something had been burnt and everything. Now this cemetery, the youngest death date is 1924. It's got a bunch of bad juju around it. It's got a bad reputation. There's a lot of dark stuff up there that we've dealt with. And these pictures were of young people, in their 20s or whatever, and they look in their modern pictures. So it wasn't somebody burning as a memorial, and it wasn't even on a grave. It was like in the entrance of the cemetery.
Okay.
Do you have any insight on that? I don't feel
Well,
it was
so
anything.
my
good.
first thought, especially because of the type of candle that you mentioned, which is the 7-day candle, which is the kind of ofrenda candle. So that's usually burned for an offering. So that was my first thought. And then I wondered if it was ancestral magic. So not necessarily, which a lot of people feel is dark magic, but it really isn't.
Oh,
It's
okay.
ancestral magic.
Okay.
So working with the dead to kind of achieve certain things in your daily life, or protection of your loved ones. So my without having seen the photos or anything like that, if the person was cursing the people in the photograph, they would have burned their photos. That's my belief. The photos would have been burned completely. So it sounds to me like what it was is an offering, asking the ancestors to look over these two people, whoever they were. Now they could have been a relative of someone who was inside the cemetery gates, or it could have just been a general like, this is sacred ground. This is a safe place to do this. Most people are pretty turned off by the idea of doing any kind of magic within a cemetery. Variety of reasons, right? Like, first of all, you don't want to be like dripping wax all over, someone's grave. Gravestones are, they're very susceptible to environmental damage. Be graffitiing. So I guess, like, was it at the gates of the cemetery? Where was that laid out?
I'm sorry, you kind of cut out. What did you say?
I was just asking where it was in the cemetery, like when you walked in.
Okay, so the way the cemetery is set up, it's about 100 yards or so up a hill. Okay, and it's back off the road. It's in the woods. It's a decrepit cemetery. It's been disrespected. You walk up the hill, and as soon as you get up the hill, it's kind of scattered out up there. There's graves they're up there that we don't know about. There's a certain amount of graves that you can tell they're there, that type of thing. But you get to the top of the hill, and there's a grave right there, which is the youngest grave in the cemetery. And then you take a left, and then you walk into the cemetery. And it was about, I don't know, 15 yards into the cemetery. On the path into the cemetery.
Mm-hmm. So my guess is that it was somebody who was using the cemetery as like a sacred space. Maybe they didn't go further into the cemetery because they were worried that somebody was going to see them. A lot of people like to perform those kind of rituals in private. So that would be my inkling, is that's what it was. That's what it was for, especially if the photos were like kind of more modern photos and they weren't burnt or torn up or anything like that. That's my 2 cents. I mean, in my experience, when you're really like cursing someone, you're usually like, burning an image of them or something like that. Like,
there was what was left of a burnt photo, and then there was the 2 photos that were in good shape. And then there was something inside the tent.
Trying to take care of a person who hurt those 2 people. That's possible.
Because there was also something in the candle that had been burnt.
Okay. And they could have run out of time.
And see, there's been a lot of occult activity up there.
Yeah. It sounds like someone went. It definitely sounds like
coven up there sacrificing chickens and everything.
So somebody certainly used that in a ritualistic way, whether they knew what they were doing or not.
Right.
That's because again, like, there are people who can do that type of thing respectfully and will work with the ancestors to like achieve something. But there's also people who think they know what they're doing, and then they, go up and maybe botch it a little bit.
Real quick, I know Wolf. Josh Turner, I know he's dealt a lot too with like curses and stuff. I'd like to hear his input as well.
And really quickly too, please everybody, I got to tell a quick story. As most people that follow me know that I moved my Mayan, right? When my dad passed away for about 5 years now. And the second time she's done this during a show, y'all, it's 10:29 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And and I seen a light go on the stairs, and I got a stairway, and she's trickling down the stairs, and I gotta wonder where my mom's going. I had to get myself off of this, and Tex jumped on, and Josh, and I'm like, oh my god, everything's coming, everything's getting crazy. My mom wanted to go out shopping. Now my mom is not senile. She's fully functional. She's 80. She doesn't drive good during the daytime. I said, Ma, after the show, there's a 24-hour Myers open. I'll go after the show.
What a good son.
So stay up. So just stay up. So we got text. So Varla, everybody, Varla Ventura, check out her books are all in the show notes. Go buy her books. Varla, you can stand as long as you like. It's such a great show when you come on. I so much love when you come on, full of wealth and information. Tex, I missed what Tex had to say. I imagine he was talking, well, whatever talks about. And I also got Josh backstage as well. I'm sure he's got some questions. I know he's got some of you, Varla, and Krista just came up with a point as well. And I'm going to kick back and let it roll. I'm going to let it roll. Great show. Thanks for everybody for coming on. Please subscribe to BMR, if not already. Texas Front Porch. Krista, the Blondes and Booze Paranormal Podcast. Myself and PRT, Josh on the show, and Varla. Go buy Varla's books. Check her out. Check out her website. So with that said, I'm going to bring up the full panel here, if you will. An unexpected move tonight, which is always appreciated by good old BMR. So I don't know if Josh is ready. He's back there doing something. I'm going to pull him up.
He's up already.
He's already up there.
He's up. Hey, what's up, Josh?
What's going on, man?
Well, nice surprise visit by you and Tex. Thanks for coming on for a little bit.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't want to interrupt too much. I just, some of the things that you were saying, Varla, I have a question. Are you a practicing witch yourself, or?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I kind of got that feeling because you were.
I don't identify as any particular type of witch.
Well, you don't have to. That's not.
I don't have a coven, but my mom's a witch, so I think I've just inherited a lot of the penchant for witchery. But yeah, sure, I'm a witch.
Yeah, because I noticed, like, when you were talking, it seemed to be kind of like there was a theme there, like okay, when these people did this, well, they were accused of it, but they really didn't do it. A witch would never actually curse you like that. Yes, they would, and they have. Like you said, a witch wouldn't do something petty. Let me tell you something. My mother's Hispanic. Okay, my dad is Caucasian, but my mom's side, there's a lot of Hispanic people. They could tell you 100% that there's a lot of brujeria. And that these people will absolutely curse you at the drop of a hat, whether you believe it or you don't believe it. I didn't come on to be confrontational on BMR Show, but I want to tell you right now, I totally disagree with that. And I think that, respectfully, I think that that's not correct. And to say that people will not do that, like, yeah, witch won't do that, they won't do it. Yes, they will. And in fact, there was one that cursed my older sister, my nephew, his mother. He's on my show. He's my co-host. And she did it for a very petty reason. And she had things happening. So another person, Curandera, told her exactly who it was, what she did. And my older sister went to her. And this person was her friend. They were very close. And she would cook dinner and stuff. And we actually ate dinner with her. I didn't know she was a practitioner, but she was always like, oh, she's a good witch, she's a white magic, whatever. After I found out, she was just like, oh, well, don't worry about it. She's she even cooked the dinner at the reception for my mother's funeral. But as soon as this person was offended by my sister for a very, just like, it wasn't even true. It was something that her ex-husband said that she had said. She cursed her, and it was like that, boom. And they do it very quickly and very wantonly. It didn't take much of a disagreement at all. I've been cursed at least 4 times. I've been cursed, Vietnamese cursed, by someone who I was close to. I thought we were cool. She got angry about some minor infraction, I mean, it was a very petty thing. She's since apologized that she admitted she did it, but damage done. She still did it, and it caused immense suffering. And then I was cursed by an Amish curse, and I had to suffer through that. And we got through that. So I mean, it's happened multiple times, and I've been cursed by a Mexican curse. So to say that, you know, like, oh well, witch won't do that. They won't. Maybe you won't do that. I don't know, but that's, to me, that's not correct, because you can say that a person won't do something, but that's doesn't seem to be the reality. I mean, so that I kind of took issue with that, and that's not to come on the show and say, "Oh, you know," because everything you were saying I disagree with. That's not true. I just wanted to say my piece about that, because a lot of the same listeners that listen to Big Rob here and listen to Tex and Blondes and Boozy listen to my show too. And well, Lil Patty just said a white witch would not. Well, here's what I'm going to say to that: a white witch is just one disagreement away from being a dark witch, because you can curse somebody very easily. And you can actually do it and not be a witch too. You can curse somebody. You can give somebody what they call awful.
Anyone can do that at any given point, of course, of course. And I don't disagree with what you're saying. I think you make some really good points. I think my point was the scenario that Rob was talking about, where he would just like go and, you know, complain about his neighbor, right? So I'm saying that you're involved in that. Right, like the witch is involved in like a witch will curse a certain person. Are you saying you can just go and solicit a witch to do something for you, whether they know the person or not? I'm sure you can do that. There's no doubt about that. But you know, in my experience, that level of cursing is not. It takes a great deal of effort for very little reward, and.
Well, the thing is, if you're on that side, and somebody said, Bad Monkey said, but that's your personal experience, Wolf. I'm not getting any negative vibes from Varla. I'm not getting vibes from Varla one way or the other over the computer. I'm not feeling like you're going to do something evil. I'm not talking about you personally. I'm talking about what you said. Well, you said,
I'm not taking offense to that. I'm just saying, like, there's all different kinds of witches in the world.
Yeah, there are. And from my experience living in Texas, around a lot of natives, a lot of Hispanics, they do. And they'll curse you for no reason, too. I mean, it doesn't take much. There's a lot of celoso, as we say in Spanish, a lot of jealousy. And it doesn't take a whole lot for that green-eyed monster to come out. And I've had people, you know, try to take locks of hair and all kinds of things, you know. And when I was a kid, we grew up and it was like, don't cut your nails. And Italians are the same way. Don't cut your nails. Leave them laying around. Don't leave
that's true. You don't leave important ingredients from your body and anywhere anyone can get them. That's absolutely true.
Yeah, and so it's been, yes, my personal experience, and I'm not accusing you of being a bad witch or a person. I'm just saying that, you know, to say, oh well, a witch wouldn't do that. That's not really correct, because I've seen it done to many people. And it's not just my personal experiences having the show. There's a lot of people that I've talked to, and I've interviewed lots and lots of people, and they've either come on the show and talked to, or I've retold their encounters, and that's what the show is. But there is a lot of people who've come to me and said, hey, you know, I had this going on in my life. There was this and that. Automatically you can spot it, you can see it, you know what it is. I mean, and it's, these people are being cursed. I mean, and it can be something very, you know, inconspicuous, and it doesn't have to be, you know, like just, you know, whatever. And so that's my take on it. And then I wanted to say something else about the vampire thing. Like, I do not believe that these people were just having rigor mortis and popping up out of coffins. And sometimes when we make excuses for the reality, it sounds more hard to believe. You know, there are a lot of cases throughout history, and I don't know how many, like what kind of languages you can read in, but the more languages you can read in, the better, because there are cases and cases and cases going back to Persia, you know, going back all over the Levant, all over Europe, in particular Eastern Europe, and in Asia. And we only get like a small spattering, a little sprinkling of those here in the West, because most people can't even read or write English, much less they're not going to read in those other languages. So they're not going to have those accounts. They can't. So that to me is another issue. Like, we're only.
It is true, though. It is actually true. Like that when rigor mortis set in, people's bodies would rise up. And
I don't think that explains it, though. Like, they're in particular.
I didn't say it explained it. I said it kind of added to what we think of as of a vampire today. When we kind of think of that amalgamation, that Dracula, these are all aspects of various experiences that people have had that kind of give rise to the idea of the quote unquote modern vampire. We didn't really get into the ancient vampire very much. We just sort of touched on it. So the rigor mortis thing is actually it is a fact. You can look it up. You can see all kinds of
I'm not disputing physiology. What I'm talking about is I don't think that any of that actually accounts for the cases that were being brought before the magistrates in these different places. And it happened for hundreds and hundreds of years. And just because we're in a modern age where everybody's looking at their cell phones and getting their information from CNN or Fox, doesn't mean that these things didn't happen, and it doesn't mean that they're not still happening, because I personally believe 100% that they're still happening and still going on, and we're being distracted by this digital age. But all that does is make it to where people can hide. Now, I was at HEB one time. Now, I don't know where you're from, Varla. I'm from Texas, but here in Texas, we have these grocery stores called
I know
HEB.
them.
Okay, so I take it you're not from Texas, but anyways, going into the grocery store one day, I made a joke because I have a wolf on one of my credit cards, and the lady's like, "Oh, that's cool," and it's actually not a wolf; it's a werewolf. But she said, "That's cool." She's like, "Where did you get that?" I said, "That's actually a picture of me. I'm a werewolf." I made a joke. And the people behind me laughed, and the lady that was checking me out laughed. But I thought about it, and when we got in the truck, and I told my wife, I was like, if I would have made that joke 200 years ago, in Europe,
would have been so funny, right?
they would have strung me up, because they had a very healthy fear of that. Now, I don't think that it's just by a like that it was all just medieval superstition and they were just going crazy and just killing people for no reason. I don't believe that.
I don't know. There were a lot of falsely accused people. A lot.
Well,
There's,
you said that Elizabeth Bathory was falsely accused. I
didn't say she was falsely accused. I said that it turns out that the person who accused her also was heir to her entire estate. I never said she was innocent. I said it was an interesting fact that the person who accused her was a man who could inherit her
by 30 different people. So there was a tribunal that accused her. It wasn't.
They all had, and that's part of the witch craze. The witch craze is, a bunch of whispering people pointing fingers. It's the mob mentality.
And so that happened every time somebody did something, that's actually what was happening.
I think very frequently, yes. That's how thousands of people were killed. Innocent people were killed.
Yeah. I really don't
think I love this discussion. I think you brought up some really great points. But I actually have to go. I've been on here for a little longer than I
anticipated. Yes, Varla,
I appreciate your perspective.
Well, Varla, thank you so much, because
and discuss it later.
We could put a pin in that. Varla, you gave me 90 minutes. And I know that you had your procedure, which is now it's something going on. I thank you for coming on and going a little over, because I know your eyes are getting tired.
Very tired.
I always appreciate you. I always appreciate you. And you're awesome. Thanks once again. Where can we find you really quick before you take off? All your links are posted, though, in this show.
Yes, I appreciate that so much. You can find me under my name, Varla Ventura. It's varlaventura.net. You can find my books everywhere books are sold. And happy Halloween, everyone. I appreciate you. Thanks, Rob. Thanks, Krista. Hi, Tex. Hope you're feeling better quick.
Thank you.
Thanks also, Josh. And happy Halloween, you guys.
And Varla, I will get with you on those plans, because I need those plans. We'll
get your garden going. We'll get you a dark garden.
Yes, Varla, a dark garden. I always appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right. Good night, y'all.
Good night. So, I missed when text came up. thanks for popping out really quickly, Tex.
Mhm.
I know.
Well, I really wasn't planning on coming up, but then after I came up, I thought about it. I bet they're just going to pop me up, and so I had to, put my hat on, because that's like me showing up nude if I show up without a hat. So, but I was actually just going to talk to y'all after the show backstage.
That's okay.
I wasn't planning on coming up, but I'm kind of glad I did because I got to ask Varla about that stuff, that we've always been wondering about, and it was nice to get some more answers, on that subject. So, and it's good to see Josh again. I hadn't talked to him in a while. So,
always a good time, discussing different subject matter and, a little bit of, push and shove with the witches and, what good spells, bad spells, will they do this, will they do that? And, things that I like about these shows is always a learning experience because we just don't know, do we, Tex? We really don't know.
No.
Great answer.
Well, and I have to be careful when I say this, okay? Because people, when you start talking about witchcraft and stuff, people get really, it's a controversial and touchy subject. It's very you'll run a lot of people off. I mean, but I'm not, and I think there's a lot of stuff out there. It's my personal opinion that's people consider witchcraft that's really not. But I don't know, and I think it all comes down to intent. I guess. I don't know. Married with Paranormal. What the? New to the channel. Hope everything. That is freaking awesome. Married with Paranormal. new to the channel. Hope everyone is having a great day.
Well, welcome, Married with Paranormal.
Welcome aboard. Make sure you hit the Blondes and Booze channel and subscribe to them and Texas Front Porch and Tea with Duchess Danielle and Paranormal Paul and Randy's show.
Paranormal Roundtable. We can keep going.
Yeah. But that's good. That means we got a lot of friends. I like that.
Yep.
So I don't. I get y'all are about ready to wrap it up, aren't you?
Yeah.
Getting close to it. Yeah, I know Krista's got to get up in the morning. It was did a great show of Varla, talked a lot of cool subjects. Thanks to everybody for coming in to chat. I know Krista's got to go. I can stay up for a little bit longer. I just wanted to make sure my mom didn't secure the keys and take off and go shopping. Oh, guess what she said, by the way? The first thing she says, Rob, where's your wallet? I go, what?
Your mom said that to you? That's funny.
Yeah, she did. I said, well, yeah, my wallet's, up on the table. My credit cards are.
Hey, Nelly.
My credit cards are in my pocket.
You see, a lot of people don't know this about Rob. He carries, he's such a stud that he carries a money clip.
I carry a money clip with my credit cards, cash, and ID in my left pocket for those who want to pickpocket me if I come across you. And in my back pocket, I don't carry the wallet. I stopped carrying a wallet about 5 years ago. Everything that's important to me is my front left pocket. I don't think I should divulge that now, if I see somebody at a conference, but try to accost me from the front. It's so hard to accost someone from the front versus the rear.
So, Krista,
just saying,
how's things going with you, real quick?
Good. Doing all right.
Good deal.
All right.
Well, if y'all want to shut her down, because I was going to talk to y'all backstage real quick before y'all went to bed.
Yeah, no, I think we've almost gone 2 hours. It's been a great show. I want to thank my great guest, Varla, that came on. And, Tex, you popped in. Josh always came in with what he had to get off his chest regarding what his experiences have been. regarding witches and spells.
Absolutely.
And you know what? That's what we do. We go back and forth, and that's why we do what we do, because we just don't know, do we? We don't know who's tricking us. If I learned anything from this show today, we just don't know who to trust, who not to trust, good witch, bad witch. And even if you even get off the subject of the paranormal and all this, my lesson learned is we really have to know our environment, who we're talking with on a daily basis, you guys. I unfortunately I don't trust many people today like I did in the past,
right?
Because of the way our world is shaping, right?
It's true.
And that's the reason behind all this, and it's a learning experience for everybody because everything is different. Nothing is the same. We all have different experiences. We don't walk in other people's shoes.
That's
So
true.
you can't say anything is a fact because nothing is a fact. Thank you, Scott's Life. Nothing is ever a fact, right? Because, when I talk about my Bigfoot encounter, I stand by it. I don't care if you believe me or not. It happened to me. You didn't walk in my shoes. If someone sends me an encounter story, I'll text all his kids, Rob, you believe everything. Well, I do, but I don't and some of these tales are far out. I've told far out tales, Tex.
Oh, I have too.
You go to Josh's PRT. He won't be offended. He's had people far out stuff. The blondes and the boos, all these people. But we embrace them and we let them tell their stories because there might be one person out there that something similar happened to them. And if we can help them get through their day or make them realize that they're not losing their mind, because a lot of people, I believe, are losing their minds thinking that they're insane when in fact, no, the reality is spoken and it came to you in whatever vision it was or whatever reality it was. I like the show.
Yeah.
I like the little mini debate at the end with my buddy. PRT Josh Turner, subscribe. Bonds and Booze Paranormal Podcast, subscribe. Texas Front Porch, subscribe. And of course, I am Bigfoot Mr. Rob. Please subscribe. Like on your way out. Thanks, Scott Life, for the donation. Thank you for the a new member I got up here, and I think that was David Chance, new member. I got a question for you guys can maybe answer really quick before we shut it off. This is Sonny. I gotta pull up Sonny because Sonny promotes me on Instagram all the time. I don't know if I have the answer, Tex or Krista. Can you tell if you meet a real vampire, or do you have to, or do they have to tell you they're a vampire? That's kind of like inviting them in, I guess. What do you think? Whether you believe in vampires or not, Tex and Krista,
I don't know about vampires to comment on that. I really, honestly, I don't know.
Well, I just want to present that for my promoter.
All I know is that you probably run into them every day and don't know it. Because there's different types also. So, energy vampires, of course. Those are the big ones. But they don't have to tell you anything. They can just suck the energy out of a room.
Well, you missed it when I talk about my buddy Brian. My buddy Brian is the biggest energy vampire in the world. Best friend. Every time he calls me about 2:30 p.m., he's on the road. Traffic sucks. People suck. People don't know how to drive. I'm like, dude, I'm having a good day. You're bringing me down right now. So
here's a question for you. Was Eeyore an energy vampire?
Eeyore.
Eeyore.
What the hell is Eeyore? I don't know what that is.
Oh my gosh, Rob, you're killing me, Smalls.
Is that an iron? Is that a?
No.
Is that on
Eeyore from Winnie the Pooh?
I thought it was on a periodic table. Anyway, I'm going to end the show. It was a great show. Thanks for everybody for coming in.
Really great show.
And I'll talk to you guys backstage if need be. Thank you to everybody for coming in. It was a
good night, everybody.
show. I enjoyed it. I got to pull a text and find the button. I got to look for the button text. You know what? I can find the button. I got so much crap in here. Here we go. See you guys next week.
Good night.
Not everybody.